Yeah guys, this isn't clickbait, this is like real. Hey, what's up everyone, it's me, SpeedSuperSonic, bringing another video. In today's video, we have something very intriguing to talk about, because surprisingly, if you guys don't remember, this isn't the first time we've talked about this particular subject, or the idea of this happening in the future. And what are we talking about? Well, the Sonic franchise, in particular the Sonic movie franchise, being sold to another studio. And now, how would this happen? What's going on, Ricardo? Well, let me provide you a little bit of context. If you guys don't recall, like, one of our last videos towards the end of 2023 was about the possibility of Warner Brothers buying Paramount, so by proxy, them buying the Sonic movie franchise. I kind of just phrase it in the Sonic sense because Paramount owns the Sonic movie franchise, so yada yada. And with that story happening in December and kind of continuing to unfold for the next few weeks, as I'm sure you've noticed, nothing's really come of that. There's been no discussion of Warner Bros. Or Paramount merging together. I think that deal has basically fallen through at this point. But that has not meant that Paramount is now off the buying table. They are still very much so up for grabs. In fact, it's almost a certainty that the studio is going to get purchased at this point. Now, before you're like, oh god, it's gonna be Disney and they're gonna get someone else, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that might be too much of a monopoly at that point if they were to get Paramount. It's really come down to two names. Recently, in the past few weeks, Skydance has been a major player, if you guys aren't aware of them. It was kind of an unexpected name. I wasn't expecting to hear, but it was very interesting. But the biggest development has happened so far, and that is the fact that none other than Sony Pictures is now in the mix to purchase it. So we're gonna read this article right here from Variety and seeing what this means, and we'll of course break down all of the Sonic aspects of things later. Sony Pictures Apollo offered to buy Paramount Global for $26 billion, which is crazy. This is the craziest part, in cash. So it's not just like, oh, we'll give you like $26 billion and some of it will be in stocks and etc. Some of it will be in cash. No, it's just straight up all cash payment for Paramount from Sony. Joint bid comes as media company's board is considering merger deal with Skydance Media. So let's continue and read this. In the latest twist in Paramount Global's AMA saga, Sony Pictures Entertainment and Apollo Global Management have made a bid to take Paramount private with an all-cash buyout offer of $26 billion. Sony and private equity giant Apollo submitted a letter with the non-bidding offer Wednesday to Paramount Global, as first reported by the Wall Street Journal. The bid, which would include the assumption of debt and could be negotiated, would be a premium over the company's current $22 billion enterprise value. The tag team buyout bid comes as Paramount Global Board's special committee established to consider AMA proposals is evaluating the best and final offer from Skydance Media to merge Paramount and Skydance while keeping Paramount Global public. Shari Redstone, the controlling shareholder of Paramount Global, is known to prefer consummating a deal with David Ellison. I'm really bad with last names, as I'm sure you guys have picked up on this channel, of Skydance, whose bid is backed by RedBird Capital Partners and KKR. I'm of course not going to read the rest of it, as I'm sure a lot of it will bore you, as then we get into a lot more of like the businessy side things and how things would be split up and all of that. But regardless, you guys get the point. Paramount has a massive choice basically at this point of choosing between Skydance, Sony, or maybe they're going to continue to hold out and wait for another buyer to come down that line and give an even sweeter offer. As of now, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. In my opinion, I think it's going to end up most likely being Sony. Because as of right now, it seems that Skydance is giving their final offer. They're not making anything beyond that. They're kind of like, this is all we can do. With the team up between Sony and Apollo, there's just so much money there to really, they can throw anything at the wall if they really want Paramount to be owned by them. This is very interesting, I am conflicted about. Of course, we're here to talk about the Sonic aspect of things, but you kind of have to look at Sony Pictures first. In my humble opinion, I think Sony makes some of the worst blockbusters that are out in like modern cinema. You know, they make the non-Spider-Man Spider-Man movies. They make those Ghostbusters movies that are just either so mediocre to bad. Of course, they'll hit on a few things, but sometimes, a lot of the time, they really don't. And especially when it comes to their blockbuster filmmaking in particular. I know a lot of people are going to point towards their animation with Spider-Verse and stuff like that as like a big improvement, but once again, that is a large part of the talent they get behind it with Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and this wouldn't be Sonic's first go-around with Sony already. If you guys aren't aware, in 2014, when it was first announced that Sonic would be coming to Hollywood and having a film made about him, it was originally owned by Sony. Sony had the rights to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise and hired on all of the people that we have today, like Jeff Fowler, Tim Miller, all of these different people. I think the writers were already on as well. And it was a big deal, but Sony gave up on the project and turned around over to Paramount. Is that something I think Sony might regret currently? Of course, Sonic has gone on to be an incredibly successful and popular film franchise as a whole, and the brand's identity and the IP as a whole has just skyrocketed since the release of those films. With the recent success of the Knuckles show, it's just becoming more and more and more lucrative, with it being critically and now financially with its breaking viewer records. That's right, not even Sonic, but Knuckles, a side character, has outperformed Halo and Star Trek. I mean, it's obvious that we're, set up for success here, and I think Sony sees that as well. While Paramount does have some hits at times, I think it was just reported that the Ninja Turtles movie that released last year, Mutant Mayhem, was incredibly profitable for them. Outside of stuff like that, and some of the minimal profit they've been bringing in, with their Transformers films slowly going down in terms of their trajectory at the box office, there just haven't been those consistent hits, but Sonic has been providing that for them. So when it comes to Paramount being potentially turned around to Sony in a merger, I don't think you'd have to worry about the state of the Sonic franchise. I think Sony knows the value of it, and they would try to, keep it alive. And will that come in the form of milking and doing different things? I'm sure. But this could have some positives to it as well. One, more money, more financing, so there wouldn't have to be so stingy with different things in terms of the budget and the production that goes into it. So that could give us more projects, higher quality projects, considering that we keep, like I said, with a lot of the good stuff that happens at Sony, the right talent in it. So keeping on the same people, bringing in new people that have good ideas. But you never know, they could really see a future with Sonic on the same kind of level they might see Spider-Man, and start doing animated Sonic movies, which I know people have been dying for in the fan base, so that would be able to scratch that itch for them. Maybe start producing more television series, whether that is animated or continuing to do more live action stuff, which we know is in the cards still. Like I mentioned, there are other properties that they own, like I said, with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers and all that stuff, but with Sonic, it's a trickier situation. Paramount has sole ownership of those properties. With Sonic, however, it is still ultimately owned by Sega. Paramount's just kind of the really cool stepdad of Sonic, who just spends a lot more time with the child and takes care of him better. I made it no secret on this channel, I would much rather Sonic be completely owned by Paramount at this point. But with that not being the case, they still will only have control over the movie branch. So if you guys are worried about like games or comic books or all of this different stuff, like non-movie related TV shows, I don't think you'd have to worry. But of course the biggest question goes to, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I honestly don't think that much is going to change. Obviously Paramount will not be the same now being under the roof of Sony, but it's not like they're just gonna be like, alright, we're done with this now, we're starting completely anew. No, they're gonna continue these incredibly successful franchises and IPs that Paramount owns. And like I said, Sonic is probably one of, if not their biggest franchise right now. They're gonna keep that thing going for as long as they can. It's just a matter of how greedy will Sony potentially get with it. Like I said, Sony did own the Sonic movie rights at one point, so it's not like Sony's completely like non-knowledgeable about this franchise or what they set up for. And like we also established, I think Sony probably at this point regrets giving the film rights to Sonic away. Ultimately, with the situation we're in now, I think it's ultimately for the better. But if anything, if there is a sparkle of hope here, I think that now that they've seen the success that Sonic has brought to Paramount, and maybe the little bit of jealousy that they have over Paramount reveling the success of this brand that they had the rights to, that they just chose to give up, I think they're really gonna go for it with Sonic in particular. We also have to look at the fact that Sony obviously has different divisions in their company with PlayStation. Sonic is of course on PlayStation already with third-party Sega over here, but if the film rights are now going to Sony, will that create a better relationship, a larger relationship with PlayStation overall? That's definitely a discussion for another day. Regardless though, this is something that I think at this point is imminent and does need to be looked at and people do need to prep for. The Sonic movie rights are probably going to be shifting movie studios, and while yes, it's going to be shifting with basically every other IP that Paramount owns, there are going to be changes coming, and I do think we need to prep ourselves for that change, and I needed to let you guys know about this because no one in the community is talking about this because it doesn't have like Sonic in the headlines of it. But nonetheless, I'm incredibly intrigued to see if this is going to happen, or really a matter of when this is going to happen at this point. So this is where I pass it off and ask what you think. What do you think about Paramount basically getting ready to sell themselves to either Skydance or the more likely choice at this point, Sony Pictures? Is this a change that you want, or do you kind of just want to keep things the way they are? Or do you want Sonic to go to a completely different studio in general? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I love to know what you guys have to say. Feel free to follow my social media links to my Twitter and Instagram in the description below. You can follow those things in my life, future content, and all things Sonic the Hedgehog. But most importantly, if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. This is the #1 destination on YouTube for all things Sonic, whether it's video games, TV shows, movies, comic books, merchandise, and more. We talk about it all. We have a bunch of content coming for Sonic Movie 3. A trailer is imminent at this point. I cannot wait for that. And so much other stuff in relation to the franchise. I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
And be right by the motherfucking seaside, dog. Everything I see, I got a dream. I thought these leaves would go and take me out the dark. I know everything I wanted to far away.